The beginning flashback of episode 2 of Shogun reveals a lot about the bond between Yoshii Toranaga and the erstwhile Taiko. On his deathbed a year ago, the ruler decreed that a political stalemate ensue until Yachiyo turned 16. He made the 5 regents share political power but was wary of inner schemings. Toranaga and the Taiko were close friends. It was only fate that prevented Toranaga from marrying Okiba. The Taiko laments that he couldn't conquer Korea at his peak strength. In that case, he would have gifted Japan to Toranaga. The Taiko requests Toranaga to watch over Yachiyo as his life would be in danger once the tussle to acquire power began. His prophecy turned out to be true in the present day. John is brought to Toranaga's court. Martin Alvida, the Portuguese Suji or translator, shortly arrives to assist the regent. However, before that, he is instructed by Father Delacqua, the leader of the Christian faction, called Society of Jesus, to protect their mission. He mentions that John's private diaries talk about the Portuguese's secret base in Macau, which the regents do not know about. When he arrives at the court, we learn that Mariko is a former pupil of his. Although she isn't translating, Toranaga wants her by his side to ensure that Martin is doing a faithful job. To his credit, Martin translates truthfully. Even though John feared he wouldn't, Martin is an honorable man. In a stylishly put-together montage of Toranaga and John's conversation, the Onjin explains that he is from England. He also lays out the religious conflicts between the Protestants and Catholics vis-a-vis the war between England and Portugal. John still maintains the garb of being a merchant, authorized by the Dutch Marquis to trade freely in the open seas. Toranaga is impressed by John's sincerity and feisty personality. However, before they can proceed further, Ishida joins the court. John's heretic status has already made the rounds. News travels fast, but no one is able to predict exactly why Toranaga is interested in him. In a meeting with his inner circle later that night, we learn about his plan. Kiyama and Ono, the Christian regents, owe their fidelity to the Portuguese. John's presence in Osaka is a dagger through their hearts. Before they can vote in unison against Toranaga, the regents will demand that John be executed. This will divide the regents and protect Toranaga. John is sentenced to die, and until that happens, he must stay confined in prison. He is confused about his current state until he meets Father Domingo, a fellow Protestant who came to Japan almost 3 decades ago. Toranaga is being sequestered in the castle awaiting his impeachment. The clever regent is using the Onjin to his own advantage. Domingo also tells John about Toranaga's bloodline of the Mino era, who carried a divine mandate to rule as shogun. It is yet unclear what his heart truly desires, but the events threaten to lead to this conclusion. Domingo also sheds light on the ongoing trade arrangements. Since the Japanese and Chinese will not negotiate with one another, the Portuguese act as middlemen. Their black ship, stationed in Macau, carries the bulk of business, earning heaps of profits. The late Taiko tried to put a stop to this arrangement, but the Society of Jesus incited a rebellion to quell his efforts. The gun ring was operated from their secret base in the region, where hundreds of converted Japanese soldiers ply as mercenaries on the church's command. The next morning, the regents meet to discuss the matter. As Toranaga predicted, Kiyama and Ono bring up John's execution. However, Ishida brushes aside their request, saying that the rules of the castle must be abided by. He is also critical of their association with the Portuguese for the sake of profiteering from their trade. They are at a stalemate, buying Toranaga valuable time. The pressure on Martin piles on as Captain Ferreira, who leads the Black Ship, demands that he secure the permit for the ship to leave Japanese shores. Toranaga, as the President of Foreign Relations, is the one who has to grant this permit. Ishida visits Yabushige outside the castle. The regent was Yabushige's former general in war, and the two men share a meaningful camaraderie. This encourages the latter to speak more freely. He brings up the possibility of the church and Christian regents taking over once Toranaga is gone. Ishida would then be isolated and on the same footing as his rival. However, having John's weaponry and his loyalty could help him. When Ishida reveals that he has already signed the execution order, Yabushich comes up with a plot to save John. He employs local bandits to kill the men taking John for execution and brings him to Toranaga. Mariko translates for John as he pleads his case. He explains that the Protestant queen isn't an enemy of Japan. They have a common enemy in the form of the Portuguese. John begins to divulge all the secrets from his diaries to Toranaga. He explains that the Spanish and Portuguese controlled the Magellan Pass, which allowed the Erasmus to come ashore. The two empires carved up the New World, of which Japan is a part, into two pieces for themselves. Their end goal is to displace non-Catholic rulers and install their own rule in the territories. Toranaga and the rest of the court are stunned. But the regent already has a plan in mind. He instructs John to be placed in his quarters for the night. It is a trap to bring out the spy in his ranks who works for the church. The first step is denying the black ship to depart from the shores. It propels the regents and the church to dispatch their murderer in the palace. It is one of the maids, who wreaks havoc as Toranaga's samurai are slow to react. Toranaga is smarter to the situation and tactfully kills her, but not before John tries to intervene and save his life. Toranaga reveals that the maid came to kill John and not him, making him an even more important pawn in this political game. The episode review. The different shades of Shogun on display in Episode 2 make the wait for next week's installment even more exciting. Doesn't the show make you want to go online and read everything about Japan's feudal history? The level of detailing in reproducing customs and fine-tuned cultural idiosyncrasies is quite impactful. On the flip side, we also see responsible filmmaking that is viewer accretive. There are many occasions in Episode 2 where the makers dumbed down the material to make it very accessible. The chances of getting lost in this complex and mature cinematic world are significantly reduced. Many alliances are in the pipeline, while a few have already been forged. This episode proves that the makers are very eager to develop the main characters in the backdrop of the unfolding chaos. As soon as John started speaking in front of Toranaga, although the whole setup felt hasty, the episode's tone switched. The urgency is ushered in through subtle cinematic cues that are easy to miss but not as hard to appreciate. I truly believe that Shogun will be one of the best shows of the year. So far so good.